What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Matt, you're on the road. I'm about to go on the road, but I was like, you were available. I'm like, we got to get a conversation in because there's so much happening right now. And I want to hear. I want to get your thoughts on things. And so, I had Ron Unz on last week, and we were talking about. I've been bringing this up with my last couple of people that have been on here, but to me, not that anything is linear in a straight line, black and white. But as time goes on, my theories they're looking more like right to a certain degree. And I don't want to say like I'm, whatever, but you're seeing, like you saw some of it with Bill Ackman last night, that video that was going around that Candace Owens was sharing. And I don't know if, one group is responsible, and I'm not saying that, but I do feel like what took place last... Go ahead,
the reptile people.
The reptile people. Yeah. Shout out to John Waters.
Right.
But
Peter Thiel, the reptile.
But
I had no idea.
But in reference to Charlie Kirk, the tragedy of him last week, to me, and I'm using the parallels of Malcolm X, and I probably should have clarified that for people when I posted it on X, that they didn't have the same message, but Malcolm X got too powerful for the nation, and they decided to take him out. Charlie Kirk, to me, turning point was moving in a different...
But it's for sure. I mean, it's the Louis Farrakhan faction within that are the people that killed him.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike. Right. Because he was getting too powerful, correct?
At the time, right. So, but that was like an inside of the black struggle thing, where you could have Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, two of whom end up assassinated. One by another black Muslim, and one by, the narrative is James Earl Ray, the white racist cracker, but that was kind of the Malcolm X thing was like an inside thing. It wasn't like that. That would be comparable to the Groypers, which they're trying to use as the counter narrative. Like, oh, this Robinson, he was a Groyper. He was like from a MAGA family. That means he's a conservative till the day he dies. So, let's blame Nick J for Charlie Kirk's death. But that's actually what happened to Malcolm X.
Well, and where I'm going with the parallels is in terms of Malcolm X became too powerful according to the nation. He was becoming more powerful than them, so they decided to take him out. Was Charlie Kirk becoming, on the precipice? He was powerful, but he was getting more powerful, and his influence on the young votes that the man in black, the powers that be, the deep state, whatever, decided we cannot have this. We're taking him out.
Well. One thing I want to say, because we were talking about Ray Unz, before the show and a little bit at the beginning, your interview with Ray.
Ron.
James Earl Unz. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, rewind.
No, it's okay.
So you have to almost timestamp every one of these podcasts, and if you record a podcast, like right now, and it's like Tuesday afternoon. If it doesn't go up until Wednesday, it might be totally obsolete by then. So you almost have to have a date stamp on everything because of what information was available to people at that time. You know, things the data on the rifle in Utah, or the new as of right now, the last thing that we've seen in the last few hours is the Salt Lake City DA doing his complete reading of all these texts uh, between the shooter and his trans boyfriend, right? So anybody that was recording something 24 hours ago that didn't know that might still be sticking with it's absolutely a conspiracy. It's the Mossad or whatever. And I think that you can have many parallel currents in a river, and a tendency is for people to pick out their like main demon, like who's my main enemy? Who do I think is behind everything? Right? Who's the man behind the curtain? So it's Mossad, right? Therefore, anything bad that happens in the world, it had to have been a machination of Mossad using, um, the Utah shooter. I hate even using his name because it that's what they live. Yeah, that's what they live for is the internet fame, the internet immortality. So this Utah monster, he's got to be a puppet of your main enemy, right? Everybody is constantly looking for ways to knock down that this was actually a brainwashed zombie zealot, taken over by the dark web, you know, in Reddit, all of these, websites that are reinforcing, uh, you know, have no tolerance, go out and kill your enemies. You can actually point to pretty hard data when they do polling, and you can break it down by liberal, conservative, and by age. And young liberals are like off the chart. Like, yeah, it's okay sometime to shoot your enemies, right? I mean, boomers catch a lot of hell, but there's nothing like young liberals for like, sure, sometimes you just got to kill them when you see all these polls. So if you're in a subreddit where these things are really being reinforced. And I read something, it was not on Substack, it was on Medium, but there's a game I'd never even heard of that's from China. Gosh, I wish I had it up on my screen right now. Somebody in the comments maybe can kick it. It starts with a Z, I think. But there's this game in China where people actually make money. It's like you can be the top in this. I wish I could think of the name. It's like a four-syllable name beginning with Z. Anyway, you can make up to $250,000 if you're like the top player in this game. Okay, so the Utah shooter and his trans boyfriend, they had actually statements saying, "My goal is to become a professional gamer." Okay,
Is it
we're living.
Zaneless Zone Zero? Is that the name of the game?
What is it?
Zaneless Zone Zero?
No.
Oh.
It sounds like Zoroastrian or something like that. Anyway, but you can make $250,000 um, by being like the top gamer. But the top gamer, it's like, the best assassin, ninja, killer, right? And then you're in little squads where you're encouraging people to be better assassin, ninja killers in this game world. And the game is from China, where they don't allow trans anything. Okay, this game promotes like you can be like a trans ninja, and you can make money being a trans ninja assassin in this game. So what profit what profit motive, what company says, yeah, we're going to create a game, give it out free, and then offer prizes up to $250,000 for being the top LGBTQ trans killer? Okay. And your squad versus all these other squads, you can all make money. So obviously, this is for like naive kids a honeypot that can cultivate killers. And the only way that I could possibly see an Israeli connection to this is once once you have thousands and thousands of primarily kids like under in their 20s teens on this game, and if you have the state resources that you can follow them from the game back to their private DMs and then infiltrate these groups, you can see who is really ready to go off the reservation and be a killer for real. And you can cultivate them with little nudges. Are you only going to talk about it, or are you going to walk the walk? You know what I mean? You talk like you're a real serious guy, but are you really going to do it? No, you're never going to do it. Meanwhile, you and your trans boyfriend are living in an $1,800 a month townhouse, and reports are getting visited by people with out of state tags, enough that neighbors noticed, that some weird stuff was going on there. So the trans boyfriend, who's a furry, who's like, there's like little videos where he's wearing the furry crap, if you can imagine. Now he's supposedly singing like a canary to the police because he doesn't want to, be in front of the Utah firing squad, probably. But everybody in this group, some of them may have been state actors nudging him towards actual action. Some of them may have been in real life actual gaming accounts for their own twisted reasons, nudging him towards action. And I think he was probably doing it to impress his trans, boyfriend, lover. When I do this, you'll know I was really down for the cause. All those people that said I was all hot air and all talk, they're going to be really impressed when I really do this in real life. So if there's a state actor component to this, China creates the game. These guys roll in this game. It's a Medium article. I wish it's on my timeline. It's on my Twitter feed back like yesterday. But if other state actors infiltrate this and see, like, you could have like a working group. Who in all of these groups do you think is the most likely to be ready to pull a trigger? And they say, oh, it's this guy in Utah, man. And he just hates Charlie Kirk. So all we got to do is nudge him a little bit. That's as far as I can see it. Or I can see it completely organic within this group. No other state actors know anything about it. Not MK Ultra, not the CIA. China's just doing it to like seed poison into our culture, right? They don't allow trans anything. And here they are, just like TikTok, right? TikTok in China is like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an engineer. I made this great school project. That's TikTok China. TikTok America is, kindergarten kids twerking in your face. So they put these things out to us for social cultural poison. That doesn't mean China was behind the Utah killer necessarily. But once these groups are formed, yes, state actors can absolutely infiltrate these groups, move over into their DMs, because Signal, Telegram, all these things, they're all a joke. Discord, Reddit, they're all easily penetrated, and give this guy a couple nudges. But I think he just did it to impress his trans boyfriend, and the trans boyfriend probably never thought in a million years that the Utah killer will actually do it. And just speaking as a shooter, like a lifelong shooter, like going on 6 decades of shooting, I think that for me, one of the worst things about this whole thing, this press conference today with the DA, he used his grandpa's 30-06, like a, pre-World War II gun, or maybe at some point it was rebarreled, sporterized, new scope. But he actually said in one of these DMs to his tranny boyfriend that grandpa's rifle did real good, didn't it? Ha ha ha. I mean, what a mortification for that family. So grandpa, in good faith, probably before this guy turned into a lefty trans demon, gave his grandson this family heirloom rifle, which has been described as like a Mauser 98 barreled in 30-06. It'd be very interesting to me as a gun guy to know, like, where was that receiver made? When was it converted to a 30-06 or what, was it the sporterized stock? Was that put on at some point? Because there was a screwdriver left on the roof. And it doesn't seem like it's real easy to change the stock, take off the stock on a Mauser. Some stocks are pretty easy to take off, like with a screwdriver or something like that. But if this guy is running along with a rifle, I don't think that he had a complete full-length rifle from buttstock to barrel muzzle, shoved down his pants. I can see him possibly breaking it in two to move with it. But then he put it in the woods and it appears to be all assembled on that cardboard box. So it's hard for me to understand how it all happened. Kyle Seraphin that you've had on, which was an excellent interview like a week ago, he interpolates that jumping off the roof video as seeing a rifle. I don't see it. Maybe if somebody can freeze frame it and like look at shadows, and that if the rifle hit the ground butt first, that's how the scope, which may not have been really torqued down tight in the rings, the scope could have slid all the way back, as far as it would go until like the bell, the swell at the front of the scope hit the front ring, and that's as far back because the rifle wasn't really shootable in that condition that we saw the picture. But I think in one of the DMs between the Utah shooter and his trans boyfriend, I think he said it was a 2K scope. So, and I don't know what power it was, but at 250 yards, that's a chip shot. I mean, that's a putt that every golfer makes every single day. So you're not going to miss with a 8 or 10 or higher power scope at 200 yards if you're firing from a rest. And the kid, before he was twisted into a demon, seems like he did have some background in shooting. Okay. I mean, I started shooting when I was like 10, 11. So by 22, he's twisted into a demon, but he had a background in shooting, which would make him a cool guy to his nerd friends that never really did any shooting. That would give him cred, like he was a Green Beret or a Ranger or something. Oh man, you guys are just shooting in this game world. I shoot real guns. I've shot my grandpa's 30-06. And I can only imagine that family's mortification. I'm really glad that they turned him in. From what the DA said, his mother recognized him in the videos, and his mother called him. Remember, he's not living at home anymore. He's living in the $1,800 a month townhouse with his trans boyfriend that they're somehow paying off of gaming profits, right? So if you're paying $1,800 a month rent plus living expenses and car, etc., off of gaming, then somebody who's providing the funds to that game to give to these twisted monsters so that they can support themselves while they're weaponized. I mean, I'd really seriously be looking into that. But the fact that he used grandpa's 30-06, and it's so interesting, that whole DM string that the prosecutor read, he's really worried about what his father thinks. You just killed Charlie Kirk. You're like concerned about, I'm going to go back to the drop site and get the rifle. And this DM string goes on for a long time. Oh, there's too many cars around. I'm waiting for the law enforcement to move on so I can recover the rifle. But and then it's like, oh, I don't think I can recover the rifle. But it's an old grandpa's rifle. They'll probably never be able to get it from a serial number, which might have been true. But the scope was probably bought on a credit card somewhere. And according to the DA, his DNA was on the towel, on the rifle, all of this stuff. It makes me sick. And I'm sorry that this kid was weaponized into a monster. I want to see him get the death penalty, 100%. But I want to know who was providing a lifestyle for quote unquote gamers in like who can be the coolest woke trans ninja assassin game, right? On what planet is that organic?
The name of the game, by the way, is Valorant, and it's
Valorant.
by
Not ZV, Valorant.
And the Tenet Tenet is the company, the Chinese company, and yeah, it's called Valorant. So Tencent. I'm sorry, Tencent.
Yeah, you cannot promote trans or gay anything in China.
Riot Games. I'm sorry, Tencent owns Riot Games. Riot Games produced Valorant.
Valorant. Yeah, but so all these guys are in Valorant, and they're in like little squads, which mean that they can off to the side of the actual game, they can confer and strategize, and then they can say, let's talk off of the game DMs in this other area where nobody can hear what we're saying. They think, but this is like a wide open. This is wide open to any state level actor or talented hackers. None of that's going to be secret, so they can easily have a working group saying, hey, it sounds like there's a guy who hates Charlie Kirk so much. Oh, if we could just give him a little nudge. But that's as far as I would go as assigning Mossad to it. I don't think that there's anything now to, he's a patsy. His gun wasn't even shot. There was a guy behind him with a pistol. It's Elon Musk on the grassy knoll. I don't believe any of those things. I think this guy actually used a 30-06 and pulled the trigger. And I don't know if the video is still floating around, the one where the camera angle is from here and you actually see the impact, pretty high definition. The bullet struck him in the neck right here, okay? So it wasn't a high angle, it would have hit his chin. It hit him right in the neck. And in 2 seconds, you see like a pint of blood fly forward. That's what everybody, when they're saying how horrible that is, that's what they're seeing, is a pint of blood flying out of the front of a wound, because a high velocity 30-06 is like a pretty high velocity round. Like a typical bullet is going could be going 3,000 FPS, but it's going over 2,500 FPS. And you're talking like 150 to 200 grain bullet. And it just hit soft tissue, no bone, right? Just soft tissue. It's going to destroy the entire neck. So Charlie Kirk was dead in 10 seconds. I mean, there's zero chance. You can't put a tourniquet on a neck, right? The blood flow stops and you're going to die.
Even if somebody would have been standing right there on
even
impact.
If you had a surgical team right there, that's a kill shot. So that when you shoot a deer or any other animal with a rifle like that, the tissue around it is destroyed by the hydrostatic shock. It's not just that it makes a penetrating wound, like a sword wound. And when you watch videos like Grand Thumb and things like that, and they shoot the gelatin blocks and they slow-mo the big clear gelatin block, and when you see the bullet passing through and that gelatin block does this and then it collapses back down, when it does this, all that tissue's wrecked, okay? That tissue doesn't come back like, now you're fine. You just had a wound channel. No, everything in that area is wrecked. It turns to jelly. So his neck was destroyed. If it had hit bone or something, he might have lost. I don't want to get awful, but I don't think we're going to see rear exit wounds of his neck, because he had zero chance of survival. And I guess it's better than if he was hit in the brain housing unit, because that would have been even worse for what people would see. But it's bad enough. But this piece of crap kid used grandpa's 30-06, like a military surplus rifle, or who knows its origin. I'd love to trace it all the way back. But he actually put grandpa's rifle did real good, LOL. And so, I want to see him get the death penalty, but I also want to know who was encouraging these gamers to try to cultivate and groom a killer among them, paying them money to play this game.
This is a question I have with this, and so to follow up with what you just said, I look at Turning Point, and I've said this several times now, but Turning Point as an organization and how strong they were, and they were getting more powerful. was a politician for all intents and purposes, right? He had become that.
Yeah, many of his close associates since his death have all said the same thing, which I don't think they coordinated because many of his close associates have said this since his death. We all thought he would be president.
So clearly, I mean, he's the people that he was running around with. I mean, he's in the circle with the people, right? With Vance, with Trump's kids, Peter Thiel,
Sure.
so on and so forth. So, with Elon Musk, with where Turning Point to me was going, and this is where I'm coming back to the Malcolm X thing for a minute, because Turning Point was, the younger people were becoming very wary of what's going on in the Middle East, right?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
so in my view, he had a decision to make. Was he going to go? Was he going to move in that direction or stay where he was?
Oh yeah, Candace had a video today. I mean, Candace sometimes she's like a kind of a, she can go off on some pretty wild tangents, but she's always interesting, right? I don't get her little dunk on Nicholas J. Fuentes that she made a couple days ago. I think it's unnecessary. But according to
You wonder if they do that back and forth though to prop each other up like fighters used to do, like
kayfabe,
they'd stage those press fight
kayfabe,
brawls, push each other.
The kayfabe. Yeah, Michael Yon, the kayfabe.
Yeah.
Right. When I see Candace the next time.
And they're just feeding off. I mean, every time
Nick, you better watch out.
Every time Tucker mentions Nick Fuentes, it only helps him.
Yeah, they're setting up for the death match, Nicholas versus Candace. With Tucker as the referee. Cue the Rocky music. Yeah, it could be kayfabe, but it helps all their viewership. But Candace, according to Candace, Charlie Kirk was moving towards being a Catholic. He was like carrying a rosary and going to mass, and like according to Candace, she told him, take the last step, just declare that you're a Catholic. So in the religious conspiracy sphere of this, you can say, well, there's, the Bibi Netanyahu war room going, oh my God, Charlie Kirk, who we helped fund at the beginning, is now become a monster out of our control. He's like a 6-inch diameter sapling that's growing at record speed. And in 10 years, he could be president. He could be an oak tree that we can't move. And he's moving away from Israel. Everybody has seen the clip of him and Ben Shapiro, where he's starting to challenge Ben Shapiro on Gaza and other Israel issues. So,
and Megyn Kelly, that clip with Megyn Kelly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Patrick Bet-David, he was talking about Gaza.
Right. And there's all these clips are going around. So this feeds the conspiracy theory that like Mossad had a real sniper and they just got some trans affiliated, lunatic in Utah to be the patsy who didn't even really have a rifle, or he had a Nerf rifle, or he was just, pretending to shoot an airsoft gun, while the real Mossad sniper, I don't buy it, or the real guy is behind him with a pistol. I don't buy any of that, okay? But I do believe in synchronicity to this extent. In history, you can have many wheels that start turning in the same direction. And when all these wheels are rolling at different speeds, but in the same direction, they're going to tend to harmonize. That's just how this works. You're not going to have one going super fast and one half as fast. Eventually, they're all these wheels are rolling at the same speed. So you can have many currents in the river going in the same direction. And I think that I'm not ruling anything out, but you can't automatically say, my biggest enemy, my biggest boogeyman is Israel and the Mossad, because going back, 1,000 years, the liberty, all these things, right? That it's got to be them, because Charlie Kirk was starting to talk against Israel. That means it has to be a Mossad sniper. I don't buy that for a lot of reasons. Number one, if you're a state actor, you're not going to get this kid to go up on a roof 250 yards away. as we saw from the DM messages today, this kid actually was saying to his trans lover that he didn't leave any evidence. As long as he can get the rifle, I didn't leave any evidence. So he's supposedly so smart, high ACT scores, like SAT, high GPA, going to electrician school, but can't get a job. He's telling his dad, I can't get a job, probably because he's, like an antisocial a-hole. But he's he's thinking he left no evidence. He left tons of evidence. His DNA is all over the rifle. If unless you believe that all the prosecutors and everybody else, they're all Mossad stooges. They've all been given talking points by, an agent of Bibi Netanyahu, and they're all like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to say. I don't believe that. Come on. But you can have all these currents in the river running in parallel. That doesn't mean that your primary boogeyman is always pulling the trigger. There can be a lot of factions that want Charlie Kirk dead for their own reasons, and I think the reason is this 22-year-old Utah shooter wanted to impress his gaming community. That was where he lost the bubble. He lost his balance when he disappeared into this gamer world, and it became much more real to him than the oxygen breathing world, the touch grass world. So what he was more concerned with was becoming a legend in this community. He fortunately did not end up getting killed or taking his own life, like in most of these cases, like in Nashville or Minneapolis. They wind up dead at the hands of law enforcement or et cetera. Maybe they leave a manifesto. So this is kind of like a really nice evidence petri dish, because this kid's still alive, and he may have, sometimes what happens over a period of time, he gets visited by the padre, he gets visited by his mom and dad. He may actually have remorse because he may have slipped into this dark world, right? But not irrecoverably. If you're dead, it's irrecoverable, right? Your manifesto, it's what you wrote on the shells, it's all you've got left. But if he's in jail and just taking visitors, he may end up coming back towards the light, and he may not fully, but he may be able to illuminate how kids can be sucked into this world and turned into a weapon, which I think he was. Maybe it's just a completely, as much as organic as internet gaming can be. Maybe it just happened completely organically, no directing hands. But if this Valorant's game, if it's from China and they're offering gamers in America money to be the best trans LGBT assassin ninja on the team, I mean, imagine the incentive structure that is to push people towards being the top of that heap. And when you're near the top of that heap, what can you do to excel it? Go into the real world, because you have a conservative background that included shooting, and you got grandpa's 30 six. Imagine how grandpa feels. That'd be like, World War II era with a sporterized Mauser 98 rebarreled for the classic American 30 six. And then you use that and laugh about it. Grandpa's rifle did real good, LOL. I mean, to every shooter, this kid is like villain number one. But I agree. But I look beyond that to who had a game where they're giving kids money to pretend to be ninja, trans, LGBT assassins. I mean, that to me that tells me they're trying to weaponize people. And at a state level, all of their DMs and all of their subreddits are completely transparent, easily penetrated as a new player to nudge people. Easily done.
Who benefits from him being gone and, in my opinion, Turning Point being neutralized now or becoming irrelevant?
Yeah, well, in terms of Turning Point becoming irrelevant, I don't know about that. I mean, if I think it was Mike Benz on Twitter. He's Mike Ben Cyber. He's really good at he's like what's her name? Republican small Republican data Republican. Data Republican. She's awesome too at penetrating like archives and deleted texts and deleted emails, all this things you think are deleted. She's been really great. Data Republican and Mike Benz. But Mike Benz said, if you want to inoculate your kid, if you had a high school kid and you don't want them to go to college and come out like a trans communist, make sure there's a Turning Point USA chapter on his high school now. Because if kids have an option like Turning Point, remember we used to have scouts and stuff like that. That was all wrecked by the the pinko LGBT people. Oh, you got to have girls. You have to have trans. You have to have gay scoutmasters. Why wouldn't you want to have gay scoutmasters camping with your boys in the woods? I mean, it's like, come on. The Boy Scouts went through that in the 80s and 90s. They to get rid of it, they came up with like called the two adult rule. You could never have scouts with only one adult because it's just too much of a temptation for the homos, right? So is that going to get us struck on?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay. So it's like, oh great, maybe they were ahead of the Catholic Church, purging out the LGBT scoutmasters. Only you have to have two, and no boys can ride with like one adult in the car. And then after in the 2000s, it reverts. It's like, how homophobic can you be to disallow homosexual scoutmasters? And of course, you should have girls in the Boy Scouts. So that's ruined. So that option, which was like, Sir Baden-Powell, the English guy that had founded it like, 100 years ago, that's ruined. That's off the plate. So maybe your kid's in sports. He's in football. You got a good coach. That's some inoculation because he's going to get some, school hard knocks, discipline. What if your kid's not in sports? They've wrecked Boy Scouts, right? That's gone. So Turning Point USA in high school becomes a means to show, kids from, 14 to 17 that there is a social option that's not, let's game until I'm a trans pervert assassin. Let's inoculate ourselves. Let's put on the armor, that sends us into college strong enough to resist, the devil whispering in our ear. And that's, so the Charlie Kirk death may lead to many more Turning Point USA chapters in high school.
See, where I would respond to that is they lost their leader. Right, he was charismatic. He was high energy. He was mainstream. But you can't just replace him. There's nobody out there to replace him.
I agree, and he would have become a mighty oak. But also, who knows? In 10 years, he might have turned out to have feet of clay. It's like, oh, Charlie Kirk, he's got a gambling problem. I'm not saying he did, right? But he dies at the peak. He dies at the apex. And he becomes a symbol. He's like a living statue everywhere. And in 10 more years, it might have turned out, oh, yeah, he's like, he's got this or that problem, right? He's a secret drinker. I'm not saying he was, okay? But there's a great quote by the French leader Charles de Gaulle. And I love this quote. And when people were praising him and, being overly sycophantic to him, he had this great quote. He said, the graveyards are full of irreplaceable men, indispensable men. The graveyards are full of them. And I forget who said this. It was actually a motivational speaker I saw recently. He said, you right now you're super hardworking, you're doing great, everything's, on top of the world. But if you didn't go to work next week, they'll have somebody else in your place by the end of the day, right? You're like you're the top earner. You're the keystone of the company. If you don't show up at work, they'll have a new person in your place by the end of the day. So now instead of one Charlie Kirk, that's like our rock, like our Gibraltar, our tallest redwood tree in the world, a lot of other people are saying, or hearing the message, you have to be Charlie Kirk. Don't wait for John Wayne. John Wayne's not coming. You got to be John Wayne. So this may turn out not to be the end of Turning Point
Yeah,
USA.
I don't think it. Well, no, I don't think it's going to be the end. Actually, and maybe I'm. I've talked to people offline about this too, and so I want to clarify. I don't think it's over. I just think it's less. It's irrelevant now with him gone. Are they still
Oh,
going
I
to move?
think,
Are they still
but I
going to
think that, but I think what I think it is that you ever watch that? You ever watch that show? Uh,
the good, the bad, and the ugly? No,
no,
I'm
no,
just
no, not
kidding.
no, the TV show that where they make swords, they make knives and swords, forged in fire.
Yeah.
Okay, there's this process called quenching, where you take, it was a glowing piece of red steel, you were hammering and beating on it. Okay, and then at a when it's just right, you plunge it into this oil bath, and it case hardens it. That means that like the mills on the outside of the steel are now way harder than the mild steel that you were just beating on, like with a when it was red hot and malleable. You plunge it into the oil bath, and you just case hardened it. Okay, I think that this what happened in the last week, it case hardened a lot of conservative spines. A lot of people were like seeing Charlie Kirk fall, and they're saying, I am going to pick that up. I'm picking up that banner. I'm picking up that sword. They can't just kill us with a bullet.
I think in the short term, I think I don't disagree, and I hope I'm wrong about all this. But in terms of just talking about where I think it goes, in my opinion, I think they became irrelevant when he passed last week. Again, I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going out of business or anything. But
No, I don't think so
he
because
was. Well, no, I don't think that. I don't think. Well, I agree with you on that. I don't think that either.
but one of the things about Charlie Kirk, and I'm sorry that Candace Owen is I don't think it's really a kayfabe, but I don't think she needed to dunk on Nick Fuentes like a few days ago, but she had a great tribute to Charlie Kirk. It's only like 5 minutes or 8 minute tribute. She was older than Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk picked her out of the crowd like she was at some event. Charlie Kirk lifted Candace to being Candace. They toured together. They were like on the bus, like, the Motown bus, right? They were on that early days, going from my parents' garage, couch surfing, wearing Goodwill suits. Candace was elevated to being Candace by Charlie Kirk. She's not alone. There are known faces like Candace that were found and lifted by Charlie Kirk, but there are a ton more people of Charlie Kirk's, acolytes, apostles, however you want to term it, that he saw like some great talent, some great drive, and brought them into this organization, or sometimes they were in it and then they spun off to do other things. He was like a kind of like a gravitational force that pulled the really other powerful, strong personalities in, and now they're all in orbit. They're not done. So his gravitational pull and that orbit spin is going to continue for a long time because all of these people at one level or another, they know that Charlie Kirk, elevated them to their current, trajectory and orbit. And they're not just going to like forget this guy.
Yeah, I don't think that either. But Candace Owens she's doing her thing, right? Tucker's doing his thing. So just in relation to then we move on from Turning Point, I just think that they are going to become they are irrelevant. Now again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Look, if Turning Points become a high school, because high school is more important than college. If you come into college and you're just a loose you're just a random ball rolling down, bouncing around. Okay, you're probably not going to like walk into the Turning Point office and say, "Where do I sign up?" If you're in a college, 10,000 people. If you're in a high school, 500 people, and there's a Turning Point chapter, and it becomes self-sustaining. Like the Boy Scouts were once self-sustaining. They weren't like in the high school, but they were like right next to the high school. the middle school and the high school. The communist demons destroyed the Boy Scouts because of what it was. It was a way to steal young boys and have them turn into good men. That's what the Boy Scouts was all about. They survived all the homos of those years, and then they were forced to take them back, and they're destroyed. So Turning Point becomes a high school institution where it's cool to be part of this and go to, get on, charter a van or a bus and go to big political rallies and stuff like that. Then when they go to college, those college Turning Point chapters are going to have like an inflow, like coming from the minor leagues to the pros. So at college, it won't just be some Turning Point desk or table out in the quad, hoping to just grab some random guy walking by. The Turning Point chapter in college is always going to have 100 new people coming in, always. And that's enough for a big table out in the quad all the time. And with music and sound and cool things to do and, an event schedule. So that's my hope, that this turns into something self-sustaining. And this has happened before. Do you know that, and this might sound off target, but was it L. Ron Hubbard and, I'm trying to think, not Tolkien, who was it?
C.S. Lewis and Tolkien?
Yeah, they had a bet that I can start a self-sustaining religion, like a cult, that even when I'm gone, it'll continue because I'm going to create a constitution and an ethos and a recruiting pitch that'll be so tight and organized that this will continue even after I'm gone. And that's how Scientology started. L. Ron Hubbard's books are, the Scientologists try to ignore all of this history. It was a completely fabricated fake religion. It was like a bet between two people.
Yeah, but you had the biggest movie star on the planet that had bought into it. However, they convinced him to buy into it. I mean, if he'd have been assassinated, it would have died. That's where I'm going with that.
But L. Ron Hubbard, when did he die? He died a long time ago.
Yeah, but Tom Cruise, they knew each other, I think, right?
No, I don't think so. Scientology was a self-sustaining cult. And it was a bet. It was like, I'll bet I can create a cult that will outlive me. And I'm not comparing that to Turning Point USA.
No,
I think has good motivations and a positive benefit. Or Baden-Powell and the Boy Scouts. I mean, Baden-Powell was long gone, and the Boy Scouts, went country to country and are still in many countries. But the LGBTQ commies destroyed the Boy Scouts. With the woke media and the influencers that want to wreck our civilization, they destroyed the Boy Scouts because the Boy Scouts prepared these atomized loose cannon future men. It turned them into what they could be, and they didn't want that. They want everybody coming into college as just a free agent available for the demons to recruit. So that's why the Boy Scouts had to be destroyed, and that's why I've hoped for Turning Point USA.
L. Ron Hubbard died in 1986.
So how old was Tom Cruise? Is doing risky business?
No, that would have been 1986 was Top Gun.
But so L. Ron Hubbard, was he still out being was he in an old folks home slobbering for 20 years?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Maybe he was on dialysis or at a long-term care facility. And now you got
when was L. Ron Hubbard the actual factotum leader, the moving driving force? I mean, the point was he had a bet that he could create a cult that would sustain after him. That if he just designed a religion in a particular way, kind of like Mormonism, I found these golden plates and only I saw them.
According to this, he became a prominent member, but it was after he died before Cruise became a prominent member.
Right. And Travolta and others.
Yeah, I don't know if Tom Cruise was first, but yeah, Yeah, interesting.
It's got to have
Yeah,
a pull.
like I
It's got to
said,
have a pitch. It's got to have like a magnetic pitch.
I hope I'm not saying I'm going to be right about this, but that's just my thought of where we sit today, where I think this is going. But we'll see. Time will tell.
But I do think that it's going to be shown that he did pull the trigger. It was Grandpa's 30-06, which every shooter now hates this guy for a whole nother reason, because we love the shooting culture. And to take Grandpa's 30-06, I know. I've
We at the hour? Do we got to wrap up?
no, I can't get away from that though. I'm like, I want to
Yeah, I
beat
know.
him to death with that 30 on
Yeah.
six. And we've had some good ideas, since Utah has the death penalty by firing squad. I think that usually they give you the choice of firing squad or the dog's death by lethal injection. I think in his case, it should definitely be the firing squad, and they should do it in a stadium where everybody gets to bring their own rifle. Just put them over on one side, the 50-yard line, sideline on one side, and have 50,000 people. You have to like probably sell tickets for this. You know, it'll be a fundraiser. Pay a couple $1,000s, bring your own rifle, and when we say shoot, there'll be nothing left but a blood stain.
Who benefits now from this loss?
Well, I mean, when I talk about the wheels all synchronizing and multiple currents in the stream, I'm sure that the same people that, want America to be attached eternally to the state of Israel are glad because this this record fast growing sapling that was destined to turn into an oak tree and probably president of the United States was going off the narrative. I mean, it was clear he was. So, yeah, I think that they're not exactly sad about it.
Establishment Republicans? Because this hurts MAGA, right?
It may or may not hurt MAGA. There may be, I'm not saying there will be another Charlie Kirk, but there may be 10, 80% Charlie Kirks that in the aggregate are 800% Charlie Kirk. I mean, he was great at picking people. That was one of his talents was he picked up powerful, strong, smart apostles, and they're still there. And they've got more steel up their spine now than ever.
But this sends a message to me too, in the manner of which it was conducted, that you wonder if it's going to make people hesitate to speak. I know
Well,
and it's only been a week, not even
and
a
look,
week.
just from the security point of view, I would like to say, and this kind of connects Butler, PA to the Utah situation. Even if you don't have Secret Service snipers up on all the roofs. Remember in Butler it was like, who dropped the ball? Well, the Secret Service snipers were on the barns behind Trump, but we thought that some Pennsylvania State Police would be on those roofs over there, but it was too hot and the roof was slanty, so they went inside and didn't have a really good view. That whole BS thing about having armed counter snipers on all the roofs, you don't need that. What you need is just some volunteers, could be students, that are wearing an orange vest and an orange hunting cap with a walkie-talkie and binoculars. And you put them on 3 or 4 of the high points around your engagement. Okay? They're there 2 hours before Charlie Kirk shows up. They can wave to the crowd. The pre-show person can say, don't worry about anybody up on the roofs because our own people are up on the roofs. And then these guys in orange wave, and they've got binoculars and they've got walkie-talkies or cell phones. So there's no chance for a Utah shooter sniper ninja to like crawl up onto the roof, ninja the guy in orange, put on his orange vest and his orange hat, and then, hide his rifle. There's no chance. You've taken that away. You've occupied all the high ground because the 4 guys in orange can see each other. And they can see all the lower roofs between them and the target. So nobody's crawling out like on Butler onto the lower roof, because up on the higher roof, you have a guy, he's wearing orange, no long gun, binoculars, walkie-talkie, or a drone. And there's all kind of reports. Was there a drone there? Wasn't there a drone there? Anybody doing an outdoor event like that has to have their own drone team. They got to deconflict it with local law enforcement so that they don't think it's an attack drone. But they could have done their own sweep of the roofs. They could have had this drone up 1,000 feet. Nobody hears it, just watching. But even without a drone team, put guys in orange up on the high points where a sniper could be, and they can watch all the high points, all the lower points with binoculars, with walkie-talkies. No sniper is going to do that. And that's one reason why when they say, oh, I think it was like a state sniper, no state sniper is going to take a shot from 250 yards away, where the chances are excellent that some local cop is going to be standing under the ladder when they're jumping off the roof. You know, some dumb kid that thought he left no evidence except the rifle, he might try it, but no trained sniper is going to take a 250-yard shot depending on hopping off of a roof and running somewhere to get into your escape vehicle or into the woods. That's ridiculous. If it's going to be a trained sniper, it's going to be 800, 1,000 yards or more, because then they got a chance of getting away. 250 yards, you're just rolling the dice that when you jump off the roof, there's not some cop standing there saying, get down on the ground. And if you're a state actor, a state level actor, that's the worst case scenario. Shmuley Eppenstein, who used to be in the IDF, was just arrested jumping off a roof after a sniper. You're never going to take that chance. You'll do poison, you'll do a drone attack, you'll do 1,000 things, but you won't do that. And trying to connect this lunatic kid, to Israel, if it's done at all, it's inside of the game. It's inside of the subreddits and the Discord chats where they might have been nudging him. But that's as far as I would go. This kid used Grandpa's 30-06 and killed Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. I
know we have limited time today for both on your vacation and my travel ahead. But one thing I do want to ask you, from a side note, Robert Redford passed away. You want to send me on an assignment? What's a Robert Redford movie that I need to see?
Well, Jeremiah Johnson is great. Of course, he makes it look like you can kill about 100 beaver, and then a month later you got all these beautiful fur pelts. That only works if you have 100 squaws working 10 hours a day on those pelts. But it's a great movie. Jeremiah Johnson, I like that one. And look, he was woke. He was a liberal, but he wasn't an asshole like Robert De Niro. He didn't go out making threats like tough guy threats. He was a liberal. That's cool, but And hey, I'm doing this from a room here. So here I am I'm in beautiful Daytona Beach.
Looks like I thought that was Cleveland.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, it's not Cleveland.
Wow, beautiful. Hey, my mom says 3 Days of the Condor is another one I can't. Is it must?
Oh yeah, 3 Days of the Condor is excellent. That's excellent. And they used the Ingram Mac-10 in that movie, which when I was in SEAL team, we still used that, which we said it was equally good for a gunfight in a telephone booth, or as an anchor, or to hammer tent pegs. It was, it was not the greatest submachine gun, but it was very robust, and it always worked. But that's a perfect Mac-10 movie where they come into the guy's job, where he's like a CIA analyst kind of guy in New York in a brownstone. He just happens to be out at lunch. He's gone out the back door because it's raining from his brownstone in New York to get a shortcut to the deli when the assassins come in with Mac-10s and kill everybody. So SEALs always loved that movie because of the Ingram Mac-10.
Is that the must-see Robert Redford movie then?
That is one of them. That's a great movie. That and Jeremiah Johnson.
Not The Natural?
And no, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Baseball. It's a baseball movie, right?
Yeah.
And then there's always Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which my sisters all saw 5 times because they thought that Paul Newman and Robert Redford were like the super Chad hunks of all time back then, like 1969. But I would recommend Jeremiah Johnson and 3 Days of the Condor for sure.
Where can people find you, Matt?
In Daytona Beach. No. They can find me on Twitter where I'm Matt Bracken 48, I think, and enemiesforeignanddomestic.com, and I have all these books, and you can get them on Amazon or you can get them from me, my website, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. I don't have any to hold up right here. I'm just holding up the camera right here. So.
And I put all the description.
Is that a great picture?
It is a great picture.
That's the view. If I look out the balcony to the south, that's what I would see.
That's yeah. I'm jealous. I put all the descriptions for to follow Matt and to order his books. They'll all be in the show notes. And
Okay.
Matt, as always, I appreciate our conversation. I know it will not be that long before we speak again. And we got to do one with you and Jan.
Yeah, and Waters. I love those guys. Waters and Jan. That was a great show. So was Unz, James Earl Unz.
Ray Unz. Ray Charles Unz. Ray Charles Unz.
Yeah, Ray Charles Unz.
Till next time, Matt. Mic drop.
All right. Bye-bye.